if they don't make it to the finals, then this might be one of the biggest L's in NBA history.
Hot topics.
Embiid never had the mentality to win a championship. I don't think he ever will win a championship.
The best analysis.
But Jokic, he might be the best player in the league this season. He really might be the MVP.
This is the Full Court Report.
And we're back. Episode number 27. How you fellas doing?
Doing all right. Took a little time off for the All-Star break. So we're back at it. Glad to be back, but we're doing all right.
Yeah, it feels good to be back. Feeling good. Happy I can watch some Nets basketball again.
Yeah.
And make that playoff push. It's going to be nice.
Right before the All-Star break, we all went to a Nets game, actually. So.
Oh, yeah.
They got an interesting team out there in Brooklyn. Interesting little squad. Jorie Fernandez, he's coaching up. But like you mentioned, Justin, the All-Star weekend, had just happened. The NBA is back. But I feel like we can go back in time and discuss some of our thoughts. Obviously this is a time for players to kind of lock in, I guess, or just rest and lock in for the remainder of the season because it's now really a foot race to the end, to the finish line before the playoffs, get going. But like I said, I thought this year's All-Star weekend wasn't too bad, all things considered. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on what you thought of, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night.
I didn't watch a second of the Rising Stars game. I got to be honest. I didn't watch that at all. Disappointed with the 3-point contest outcome. Wanted my guy Brunson to win, but guy got bounced in the first round, and then Tyler Hero won it all. Not the biggest fan of Tyler Hero, but what up, Tyler Hero? I guess. What up? Mac McClung is the greatest dunker in dunk contest history. Three-peat, Toby. Come on, don't shake your head like that. But I did see, speaking of that, I did see Ja Morant was like, he was like, I don't know, this guy Mac kind of wants me to get in the dunk contest. And then he tweeted at Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine. He was like, what's good? What are we doing? So that would be crazy next year. Crazy dunk contest. But Sunday night, I wasn't a fan of Sunday night. Whenever it wasn't basketball, whenever it was, timeout or commercial break or whatever it was, they had that guy Kevin Hart yapping his head off. Just he totally ruined the night, in my opinion. It was just everything he said was just cringy and awkward, and you were saying that, Jorie, like it's just real. It wasn't pleasant to watch. Like it was just unnecessary. Almost every word that came out of his mouth was totally unnecessary. I like Kevin Hart. I think he's a fine comedian and all the other stuff that he does, but he ruined the night, in my opinion. Guy was trash talking SGA in the middle of the game. And him and Shaq, I mean, they can goof around. Like, I don't mind them goofing around, but this guy, Kevin Hart, was talking about, like, Shaq looks like a porn star or something on national TV. I'm like, bro, there's kids in the audience, kids watching at home, probably going up to mom and dad, like, yo, what is this guy talking about? Like, he just ruined it. They also, I get what they were trying to do, send like a little farewell to the TNT crew, Shaq, Kenny, Chuck, and Ernie. But Kevin Hart, he just was totally disrespectful about it. Like, even though, that whole thing with Kenny Smith during the dunk contest going, it's over, let's go home. He said that like 5 times to Kenny, trying to like show that it was a joke, but it was just like, come on, bro, you're kind of being disrespectful. Like, this was supposed to be a sentimental thing, and you're making it a joke. Like, I don't know. That whenever it wasn't basketball, honestly, might have been the worst All-Star game I've ever watched. But
wow.
As for the format of the games, I still don't like letting the Rising Stars guys play. I don't like letting the young guys play. But the tournament style isn't too bad. I didn't mind it. Even though some of the players said it made it a little bit more competitive, especially that last game, Shaq's OGs versus the young guys. That was a pretty competitive game. I like that one. Um, and shout out to Jaren Jackson Jr. and Victor Wembanyama because they were taking it seriously. They were playing some defense. They were going hard, and I think little by little, we'll start to see more players start to take it seriously. I think the All-Star game slowly but surely is getting back to what it used to be.
All right. I agree with a lot of things you said there. I also did not really tune in too much to the Rising Stars game. I feel like it's kind of the same thing every year. It's pretty competitive. There's no real complaints about that. Skills challenge. I thought it was really funny watching Chris Paul and Wemby just trying to cheat through the whole thing. That's a classic Chris Paul type of thing to do. Always trying to see how he can finesse the rules and stuff like that. But I am glad that they put the foot down and, ejected him or whatever.
Yeah.
As far as the dunk contest goes, the 3-point contest, Justin, I was a little disappointed too. My boy Cam Johnson, first shooter out there, put up 14, not a good number. I thought he'd do a little bit better than that, but it is what it is. Didn't really expect him to win. Shout out to Tyler Hero. I got no problems with him. I think he's a great player. This guy Justin just unnecessarily hates, I feel like. All-star. So it's good to see him win it. I'm surprised Steph didn't participate, being that it was in, his home court. So that was pretty cool. And then dunk contest, Justin, I have to disagree with you. Nate Robinson is the best dunk contest participant. 3-time champ, first three-time champ. And that guy was an NBA player. Guy actually played in the NBA, unlike Mac McClung. I feel like there's some people that never made it to the league but are just have crazy hops and can do crazy dunks. And so why not just put them out there? I know he's obviously a G leaguer, but shout out to Mac McClung. He had some crazy dunks. That first dunk jumped over the car was insane. I thought he was going to pull Blake Griffin where he just jumps over the hood. Jumped over the car and the guy that was standing in the sunroof. So I did actually enjoy that. Besides the other dunkers, they all kind of sucked a little bit. And then lastly, the All-Star game. I agree with you, Justin. I was not a big fan of that game. I feel like Draymond even said it on air, which was kind of crazy, but he was like, I hate this format. I agreed with a lot. I don't agree with Draymond a lot, but I agree with what he said there. He said it takes away from the players a little bit because they can't compete for those records, point record and stuff like that. They're not playing full games. There's also rising stars in it who haven't been voted as all-stars, playing against all-stars. I don't know if that counts. Like if they win the All-Star game, like I don't know even if that counts. So in my opinion, I like to see it go back to the East versus West like it used to be. I know it wasn't competitive. I feel like it used to be more competitive in the 90s and the 2000s. People were, the players were actually playing defense. I don't know if they play for any sort of like cash prize or anything like that, but I feel like there's got to be something bigger on the line for the players to be a little bit more competitive. And I just feel like that'd be a better product for the fans too. I agree with Justin too. I think Kevin Hart, I like Kevin Hart, but he missed a lot of jokes. He was just, that's what do you expect when you bring a comedian to a basketball game, like as a commentator. Mr. Beast thing was weird. I feel like that went on for a little bit too long. Mr. Beast kept talking. He wouldn't let the guy shoot. Dame was like trying to get Mr. Beast out of here. So it was fun watching, with the boys and all that. But I feel like as far as the All-Star game goes, especially, I think they could do a little bit better job. Maybe change the format.
Yeah. I think you guys all hit on everything that I wanted to say. Obviously to me, I think the highlight was the dunk contest with Mac McClung. Like, I don't know. I think there are some people probably rooting against him just because they're like, get this G League guy out of here. Like he doesn't deserve to be here. But
Yeah, that was me.
but I mean, like you said, jumping over a car, the little double dunk he did where like he had the guy on the hoverboard like spinning and then had the ball like, on the rim as well. That was insane. And then he jumped over Evan Mobley for his last dunk, who was standing on like, I don't know, probably like a 3-inch platform maybe. And yeah, no, I mean, it's insane what he was doing. Absolutely insane. It felt like he was levitating some of those dunks.
That guy froze in midair, turned around, and then dunked it.
Yeah,
Like
that
was
crazy.
crazy. And he's not even like that guy's short too.
right. So again, I think well-deserved win for him. But yeah, it's cool to see Tyler Hero win the 3-point contest. I felt like he had a good All-Star weekend and as a whole. And then the All-Star game, I mean, yeah, I hear what you guys are saying. Like, I don't know. I felt like it was kind of competitive up until the point when Steph started shooting the half-court shots. Then it kind of felt like it got out of hand. But outside of that, like I felt like the game was pretty competitive for the most part. Like for what we've seen in the All-Star game, the past couple of years. But I don't know. To me, at the end of the day, I just don't feel like I need to complain about the competitiveness in this like exhibition game. Like I totally get that you want to see like, the best players in the world go up against one another and try and get an idea of like, I don't know, who's better with this super team that they have. But I don't know. At the end of the day, like, does it really matter? I don't know. It's just supposed to be fun. But I do wish, like you guys said, that there was actually more basketball played as opposed to all like the antics that were going on. Like you said, like the Mr. Beast thing I thought was strange. And then, just Kevin Hart, like you guys said, just made it really awkward. Like when he, like you said, Justin, making fun of SGA's like mustard colored shoes. Like that was just weird. And they kept the camera on SGA for like a good like 30 seconds. And you could just tell like he was angry. Like he was upset, like he just was like, can we just play basketball, please? Like, why do I have to sit here and listen to this? But, yeah, I mean, again, like I said, I thought it was pretty good, all things considered, the whole weekend as a whole. But it's behind us now. Maybe they'll make some changes next year to the All-Star game and stuff. But right now, I don't really have too many complaints.
Yeah, no, I mean, basketball part of it was fine. I really didn't mind the format. I don't mind the multiple teams. Didn't really bother me, but just all that extra stuff. We don't need any of that. Nobody wanted that.
I do got to say about the format real quick. I feel like in a sense it is kind of good because it gives all the players like a chance to actually play. Like a few years ago, when D'Lo was an All-Star, I was excited to watch him play. I think he got like 2 minutes, and then they just subbed him out. So I think in a sense, like that format does encourage more. Or I guess you can see like all the All-Stars play instead of just the main ones, and so I don't know. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
I thought they should have made like the I don't know, target score higher, because I felt like it was too fast. And that's, I think, also why that they did so many of these like side things, because they needed to fill the time, whereas you could have just made the game longer,
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I'm sure they'll tweak it next year and try and make it a little bit better. But yeah, like I said, shout out All-Star Weekend. And now we move on to some unfortunate news down in San Antonio, which I think we got today, if I'm not wrong. Spurs. Victor Wembanyama, he's going to miss the remainder of the season because of a blood clot in his right shoulder. Obviously, this is huge news. He just made his first All-Star team. But, the Spurs, they had obviously just traded for De'Aaron Fox in hopes of trying to, get back to the playoffs. And, obviously there's never a good time for somebody to be out of the lineup, but just not great timing for San Antonio. And also just a scary thing in general, I think it's one thing when somebody, injures their leg or, breaks their arm or something like that. But blood clots is definitely a serious matter. It's forced some players in the past to retire. So, we really do hope that he's doing good. And hopefully, he can come back and be healthy long term. But just for San Antonio in general, I mean, what do you guys think this means for their roster and their team moving forward?
Well, it's obviously after the trade deadline, so it's not like they can make any moves right now, but I don't know. I thought, a healthy Wemby and De'Aaron Fox could have been good enough to maybe sneak into the playoffs, win a play-in game, get in there, but now I don't think they have a chance. But it's not really that big of a deal because even if they did make the playoffs, they would have been bottom seed. It's probably would have got bounced first round. So, I don't know. I don't think this is really gonna bother Wemby too much unless, something with these blood clots, it gets worse or whatever, whatever happens. But, if he comes back next year, he's going to be sitting on the sideline just watching and learning this whole rest of the season. So it might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise, maybe a little bit, but I could just be yapping. I don't really know what having blood clots really is. I know Chris Bosh had to retire because of blood clots, but other than that, I don't really know. I don't know how serious it is or anything like that, but I don't know. I mean, kind of it stinks for the Spurs because your franchise players down for the rest of the season, but when it comes to playoff success and all that stuff, it doesn't really change anything, honestly.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there a little bit. I mean, I thought that the Spurs were going to make the playoffs. I think I've been saying that pretty much all year, that they're going to be at least a play-in team. And maybe sneak their way, beat these other play-in teams. But I'm no doctor. I don't know how serious blood clots are. I remembered that what's his face had blood clots on the Pelicans a couple years ago. Brandon Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had blood clots in his leg or something, and he came back and he seems to be just fine. So I don't think it's really going to affect his play. Again, we'll see. I don't know if he needs surgery or anything like that. But one good thing for any Spurs fans out there, I believe that the Spurs have their own pick in this year's upcoming draft. So this might be a blessing in disguise. I feel like Wemby's good enough that he can kind of carry the team, to a lot more wins over a season. So maybe if they start tanking a little bit, they'll get a higher draft pick. And the way draft picks work now is if you're, bottom 6 team, you have a shot getting number 1, number 2. And there's a few really good players in this year's draft. So if they can snag a Cooper Flag or something like that, pair him with Wemby and Fox, they're going to be set for the next few years at least. So I like to look at the glass half full. I think this might be a blessing in disguise for the Spurs. Like Justin said, even if they did make the playoffs, nobody really expected them to go very far. Another thing too is I do feel a little bit bad for Chris Paul because he's on a 1-year contract. I'm not sure if he's going to come back next year. He might retire. I mean, he's obviously not the same player that he used to be, but I feel like, he was looking forward to playing the second half of the year with Wemby, maybe finishing out his career in San Antonio. So he's going to have to, I don't know, take an L, I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's terrible. And like you guys said, blood clots just, I feel like, I'm like you said, Toby, I'm not a doctor, so I really don't know for sure. But I was kind of reading up. I think it just generally affects your entire body, just pain in a lot of different areas. But I think it just makes you more susceptible to life-threatening injuries. So just obviously you don't want to be playing professional basketball when you're dealing with something like this. But in terms of San Antonio, I think even when they traded for De'Aaron Fox, I was kind of on the I'm not sure what this team can achieve this season kind of train, because I also looked at the teams ahead of them in the standings, and I'm like, all of these teams are still trying to compete. Like Phoenix, excuse me, is right ahead of them. Obviously, you know, they didn't move on from Durant at the deadline. Booker obviously still being there, so that's a team that wants to try and compete. Golden State, they just traded for Jimmy Butler, so obviously they're trying to make a push for the playoffs. Sacramento is going to remain competitive, and Dallas, like, you know, with everything going on with all the injuries, who knows what can happen to them, but obviously they still want to try and make the playoffs. So I just didn't really see which team was going to slip up, I guess, and for San Antonio to kind of get into the play-in and even have a chance. So that's kind of where I stand on it. So obviously now with Wemby being out, like you guys said, I think they're just going to try and go in the opposite direction, maybe try and get a draft pick. I don't know who that player could be, but definitely could be beneficial. Maybe they even use that to trade for a more win now player, you know, in the off season. So we'll see. But another thing that I think is interesting to talk about, I think we all picked Victor Wembanyama to win Defensive Player of the Year this season. And now, because of this new 65 game rule, Wemby will not be eligible to win the award, and that opens up the door for someone else. So I'm curious to know what you guys think. Like, who do you think the new front runner should be for this award, Defensive Player of the Year? Yeah.
I don't know. It's really tough because all of the other, like, shot blocking big men, Anthony Davis is out with an injury right now. And the other two are Brook Lopez and Walker Kessler. So, I mean, I guess maybe you could give it to Walker Kessler, but I think it'll be the first time in a long time that they give it to a guard. I think Dyson Daniels is gonna snag it now. I think it's all Dyson Daniels for the taking.
That guy's nasty. Guy's nasty on defense. I like that pick. I feel like I would give it to Evan Mobley. For me, it was between him and Jaren Jackson. And their stats, like defensively, might not, like the main stats, like blocks, steals, and stuff, might not pop out at you. But I feel like they make like huge impacts as far as contesting shots, tipping, passes, and stuff like that. Forcing players to pass and stuff. So I don't know. I don't really know the advanced stats like that. But I know Evan Mobley is probably the best defender in my opinion, the best defensive team in the league. So again, if you compare his stats with Wembanyama, I mean that guy Wemby's an alien. Like anybody's defensive stats compared to that guy, they're gonna look bad. But I feel like as far as like impact goes, I would give it to Evan Mobley, I think.
Yeah, I like your pick, Justin, of Dyson Daniels. We talked about him earlier in the year, just with the steals record that he's trying to chase. So definitely a candidate, I think, now moving forward. But I agree with you, Toby. I said Evan Mobley. I don't know. Like you said, like I think Cleveland is one of the best defensive teams in the whole league. And I think I agree with also what you said about like just his like blocks and kind of rim protection in general. Like I think there's better rim protectors in the league right now, like Gobert or even his teammate Jared Allen. Like I actually think he's probably the better like shot blocker at the rim, contesting shots. But I just feel like Evan Mobley's kind of a more versatile defender, kind of similar to like Wemby, just being able to like move a little bit better against like guards and kind of just swallow them up, I guess, contain them on the perimeter. Relax. And but yeah, like I just think that there's like a handful of instances of just smaller players just not being able to really get a shot off against Evan Mobley. So I think that compared with, or coupled with the fact that Cleveland's been the best team in the league like all season pretty much, I think that will definitely help his chances. But I think it's just interesting now because it felt like Wemby was such a runaway candidate, just the stats alone, but obviously making a huge impact everywhere. But now I think, we could go to Mobley, could go to Dyson Daniels, Jaren Jackson Jr., obviously still kind of in the conversation. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
I like Dyson Daniels though. I didn't think about that. I was just thinking all big men for some reason.
Yeah, I think traditionally it goes to big man. So yeah. But if there is a season for someone to win Defensive Player of the Year at guard, it's definitely Daniels. So we'll see. Maybe he starts really ramping it up on defense now that he knows he can win,
Facts.
Yeah. But cool. Well, get well soon, Wemby. Obviously, he's one of the future faces of the NBA, so we definitely hope that he can be out there for San Antonio long term. And yeah, it's going to be interesting off season for that team. But like we said, it's All-Star weekend this past weekend, so we're kind of now at the midway, I guess kind of beyond the midway point of the season. But I felt like this would be a fun time to go back and listen to some of our preseason predictions and just kind of get our thoughts, maybe change our minds moving forward, or kind of just spark a conversation with everything we had to say. So, like I said, I'm going to play one soundbite from each of us from this season's or this year's season preview episode. We can all react to our comments. I'll start with myself. We were talking about which team we think was going to break out this season. So yeah, here we go. The Houston Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're ready for the playoffs. Like I think they're gonna be that team that isn't on everybody's radar, and then they might start the season hot. They might just have a good stretch at one point in the season, but I feel like this team is ready to win. I've been watching a lot of their preseason, and their defense is something else, man. I think it's like Ime Udoka. Like he was kind of known as like a defensive coach when he was in Boston. But even last year, in his first season as coach, they were a top 10 defense. And they were also the only top 10 team or defense that didn't make the playoffs. So, make that of what you will. But I feel like this team is ready. All right. So the Houston Rockets, that was my breakout team.
They proved you right.
I feel pretty confident in that pick. They're currently fourth in the Western Conference, 34-21. I think I cited a lot of the things like that have kind of proven true with Ime Udoka really getting this young group, ready to compete every night. But I just kind of wanted to use this as a time to talk about the Rockets because I do feel like we haven't really talked about them very much this year of all the teams, and they've been obviously very good. So I don't know. What do you guys make of this team? And moving forward, I think they're probably a playoff team at this point. Do you guys think they can win a series in the playoffs? Like, what do you guys make of this team?
Well, to answer that very last part of that question, they are definitely a lock for the playoffs. I don't think they slip under that 6th seed, and even if they do, they're winning any play-in game that they play in. So, but if the season ended today, their first round matchup would be the Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers. And I think the Lakers win that series. The Rockets are still a young team. And within the last couple weeks or so, excuse me, within the last month or so, they've been pretty inconsistent. From January 30th to February 8th, they lost 6 straight games, including 2 of them to the Nets. But right before that, they beat the Cavs twice, they beat the Celtics, and they beat the Hawks. So they can beat the good teams. They can beat the best teams, but they also lose to the worst teams. So, it's whatever. It's middle of the season. It was right before the All-Star break. You don't know what these players got going on when they're not playing basketball. So, things happen, but They're young and inconsistent, and historically, the young teams usually get bullied in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. I'm rooting for them. I like almost every player on their team. Ime Udoka, he's a great coach. But based on the standings right now, I think they lose to the Lakers, they lose to Denver, and they lose to Dallas. I think those three teams beat them, other than obviously, like the Grizzlies and the Thunder, but they wouldn't play them until a second round matchup. So, any of those three teams, I think the Nuggets are beating them, I think the Lakers are beating them, and I think Dallas is beating them. But great team. Like you said, Jorie, from last season and from your preseason preview, they're a great defensive team. They're first in rebounding and sixth in opponent points per game. So great defensive team. That'll definitely help. But you gotta score buckets to win. So
Yeah. First of all, Jory, you were spot on with pretty much everything you said. I really doubted the Rockets, and I probably, disagreed with you on that first episode. But yeah, the Rockets have proved me wrong. I mean, like you mentioned, one of the best defensive teams in the league. However, I do agree with Justin. I feel like as far as the playoffs go, they're a great regular season team right now, and they can beat the top teams in a 1-game series. But in a 5 or 7-game series, I think they're going to struggle. So I don't like their odds against the Lakers or against any other top seeds in the West, the Nuggets, if they play them. Maybe they can beat the Grizzlies. I'm sure Spencer doesn't want to hear that. But I think they're just, I feel like they're missing like that guy. I don't know if you consider this Jalen Green's team or Sengun's team or whatever, but like you mentioned, all their players are super youthful besides Van Vliet, who obviously, won a chip in Toronto. I just feel like they don't really have the experience. They can turn it up in a game in the regular season, but when it comes to a 7-game series, I think that's where they're going to struggle. But, who knows? I didn't think the Pacers were going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and look at them. So anything can happen in this league. I'm going to say I don't think they're making the conference finals in the West. I think the West is too stacked this year, but they've really impressed me. And I think in the next couple of years, they can definitely make it super deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with all of you guys. I like this team. It's, Şengün, he was a first-time All-Star this year. Amen Thompson has been fantastic. I kind of wish I talked about him more in that prediction, but he's been like phenomenal and kind of, blossoming into a star a little bit right in front of our eyes, which is really cool to see. But they have a really great defensive infrastructure. I think that's kind of why they stand out. They're currently 4th in defensive rating in the league. Like I said, Amen Thompson, kind of like the just kind of do it all type of player. But they got Dylan Brooks, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith, Fred VanVleet for, someone like his size, I think is a really positive defender. So I feel like they have a really good defense, and that can obviously help you win a lot of games in the regular season. But I think it's interesting you guys talked about a potential first-round matchup against the Lakers. Looking at the Western Conference, to me, I actually think the Lakers is the best matchup for Houston. I think that's maybe the one team they could actually pull off an upset against. I don't know. I guess if you would consider it an upset, I don't know. But I think, like I said, the defense, they do have players who, I'm not saying, not everyone, you can say what you want stopping a star player, but they have players to throw at LeBron James and Luka Doncic. Like, they have Dylan Brooks, like I mentioned, Amen Thompson. I think Jabari Smith can defend LeBron and Luka at times. I think Tari Eason can do the same thing. So, like, there's a lot of guys on that team, I think, that can slow them down, which is obviously probably going to be the biggest thing. But I also look at the advantages that, Houston has over LA. The center position, to me, would be a wash for Houston. I mean, you have Şengün against Jackson Hayes, and then when Jackson Hayes go to the bench, like, who do you even have off the bench anymore? So I feel like that would be, a really positive matchup for Houston as well. And then, yes, the Lakers are a more playoff experienced team, but they also have a first-year head coach in JJ Redick, who's never coached in the playoffs, against Ime Udoka, who has been to an NBA Finals. And I know that's obviously, how much does coaching really make a difference? We can argue that, but I feel like that would also be another advantage for Houston, which is funny because they are the, at least playing-wise, more inexperienced team. But that's just me. Obviously, a lot can change in the standings moving forward, but I actually feel like of all the teams, because I'm just looking like, I don't know if they can beat Denver. Like, the Grizzlies have been really good all year. I think really it would probably come down to health. Like, if Ja is playing, like, I feel like that would obviously make a huge difference. They're probably not going to beat OKC. And then the Clippers are an interesting team to me because I feel like they've also kind of been sneakily good, ever since Kawhi has come back. They also have a really good defense. So that could also go either way, I think. But I feel like the Clippers kind of have a more complete roster than the Lakers right now. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I kind of hope that we do see a LA-Houston matchup.
Well, not the only reason that I brought up LA, but just if the season were to end today, that would be the matchup. So that's just why I had brought that up. But you know me, I'm a LeBron Glazer. Playoff Bron is he's a god. He's a god. And then now you get 30, 10, and 7 every night in the playoffs with Luka. Like, I don't know, dude. That would be a great matchup. That would be a great first round series, but I think that LeBron and Luka it would just be a takeover. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
You kind of convinced me a little bit, Jory. I don't know now.
Yeah,
I don't know now.
You definitely made me think about it more for sure. Like,
Don't sleep on playoff Luka. I mean, that guy, basically carried the Mavs last year.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think, but the points you made, Jory, were definitely great points. I think Şengün is going to eat in that matchup. Şengün is going to ball out. And I think, Ime Udoka is definitely capable of like a coaching masterclass. So he might, it's X's and O's, but it's also like chess. It's like a chess game. I think Ime Udoka he's going to steal JJ Redick's queen, bro.
There you go. Okay. Steal his queen. Wow. Okay. Ime Udoka. Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, I think we covered that pretty well. I didn't mean to make it seem like I'm the only person that knows what they're talking about when I picked these. But
No, I would have picked that. I would have picked that if I made that prediction.
But I thought your MVP pick, Toby, was just funny. Obviously, a big conversation who wins MVP, but I don't know. Well, we'll just let it play.
This is the year that we're finally going to see a Luka Doncic MVP, and it's about damn time. First of all, like I said, I do believe in voter fatigue. So regardless of that guy Jokic, unless he has the best season in NBA history, I don't think he can win it. I also think, I know it's a regular season award, but I think voters might take into consideration the fact that he brought his team to the, finals last year. And I feel like they just feel like he deserves it. I mean, I think he's going to probably put up close to a 30-point triple-double like he did last year. But I think I said it's going to be close because I think the Thunder will probably finish with a better record than the Mavericks at the end of the season. So I think it's going to be like a Russell Westbrook type of situation where he's not necessarily on the best team, but he's just putting up crazy numbers next year. And yeah, I think we probably said this year after year, but I think this is the year of the Luka Doncic MVP. This is the year.
All right. So, obviously an interesting pick. I don't think anyone foresaw Luka getting traded. Obviously, that's kind of part of why I wanted to pick this and talk about this. But I thought you were kind of right. Looking at the stats before he was traded and obviously before he got hurt, he was averaging 28 points, 8 rebounds, and about 8 assists. So, that's kind of typical Luka averages, but still insane. Still definitely insane. Still worthy of an MVP in most seasons, I'd imagine. But probably not going to win or can't win, I guess, now because he injured himself and, is no longer eligible. But obviously being traded probably doesn't help either. So what do you guys think? Do you think SGA is the front runner right now? Jokic? I don't know. And do you think Luka can win an MVP with the Lakers?
I said in the episode after the deadline that Luka will definitely win MVP in LA, and he might even do it next year. I think that could still very well be true. And I think, well, I know in the video that we did, I don't know what video it is, but it was the one where you asked, the question, who's more likely to win MVP, a first-time winner or a former winner? And I said it's Giannis. I definitely think now it is SGA. I think the Bucks have slipped too far down the standings and just, I don't know, haven't really heard about Giannis. Like, everybody knows he's one of the greatest players in the league, but you don't really hear anything about him. You don't really hear about the Bucks too much. So I feel like that hurts his case. I have a big feeling that you're gonna talk about Jokic, Jorie. So I'm not even gonna go there with that. I'm not, I don't know nothing about the advanced stats and all that. But I think this year it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is gonna win it, and I really do think that LA or Luka is gonna win MVP in LA next year.
Yeah, I agree with that. Having known, if I knew what I knew now back then, I probably wouldn't pick Luka. Nobody expected him to be traded. I do think with LeBron way up there in age, I feel like this is kind of now Luka's team. They're transitioning, and you know, unless they get another star, it's not like he's going to be sharing. Besides LeBron, obviously, it's not like he's going to be sharing the ball with another, crazy star, and that's going to take away from his MVP chances and stuff. So I definitely feel like he'll have a chance, the next few years in LA. I have to agree with Justin. I think SGA is the hands down MVP so far this year, averaging 32 and a half, 5 rebounds and 6 assists. He's super efficient. I think he's over 50% from field goal, gets a crazy amount of free throws per game. They're obviously the best team in the West. I don't think it goes to anybody else. And I still believe in voter fatigue. So number 2, I'd probably give it to Jokic. But again, even if the Nuggets somehow end up with a better record than the Thunder, I think the voters want to see somebody new. I think they're going to get SGA in there. And it's much deserved, too. This guy's having a crazy year.
Yeah, I should have kept in the part of the clip you said SGA was your runner-up for context. So I felt like I probably should have added that. But just funny. But it's funny you mentioned, Justin, you thought I was going to talk about Jokic. I actually think SGA is the MVP. I feel like, I don't know. Jokic is having obviously a historic season, I think, with, just the points. Obviously, points, rebounds, assists just normally, but efficiency-wise, I think he's having a fantastic season. And I don't know. I just feel like at the end of the day, sometimes voters just change their minds and don't really see, I guess, what has been as impressive when you do it consistently, I guess. But not only that, I feel like SGA is 100% worthy of just winning the MVP outright. He's on the best team in the West. I think he's 8 games ahead of the Nuggets right now in the standings, so like has a huge gap record wise, and I think that always plays a part in it. But I don't think I ever mentioned this on the pod, but I've definitely said it to you guys, just just hanging out whatnot. I think that in the league right now, SGA is the closest thing we have to Kobe Bryant. And I feel like a lot of people might try and think about it. I don't know, maybe pick a more athletic player, someone like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. I don't know. There's probably other guard, like swing kind of guards, whatever, that at least athletically are a little bit closer to Kobe. I just feel like SGA, the impact that he makes is so similar to what Kobe is in terms of just his relentless ability to score, really. I feel like just that alone is kind of unlike we have seen really in a long time. I think obviously there's been some great scores, but I feel like just that he makes it look so effortless kind of thing, where it's like he can just get to the rim. It doesn't really feel like he's moving that fast, but I think the footwork is very similar to what Kobe is. Like Kobe used a lot of jab steps, a lot of pivot foot, stuff like that. I think SGA in that sense, very similar to Kobe. I think Kobe did it more in the post, and SGA is more of like a driving guard. But again, I just feel like the gravity, as a lot of people like to say, that he has on the floor is just similar, I think. Because he's not really putting up a huge number of assists for playing the point guard position. And I kind of feel like with the way the Thunder play, he's not really like the prototypical point guard that you might think of when you think of the word point guard. I just feel like they have a lot of guys on the floor constantly that are, bringing the ball up and running the offense. Like obviously Jalen Williams, who's an all-star this year, but like even Chet Holmgren, who's their 5, he handles the ball quite a bit. Isaiah Hardenstein has the ball a lot. So I just feel like SGA is kind of out there just doing everything he can or whatever he wants, really. So I feel like in that sense, it's kind of more like a, off-ball player, kind of like Kobe was. But and then defensively, I think SGA is underrated. Like I feel like he actually is one of the better defenders. I don't know in the league necessarily, but because he's not the type of guy who goes out there and shuts down your best player. And it's, funny because we look at some of his teammates like Lou Dort or Alex Caruso. We think of them as like great defenders because they're just kind of lockdown defenders. But SGA, I think, really makes an impact on that end. He's averaging about 2 steals a game, and I know steals aren't everything, but I think the way he gets his steals is always impressive. So I don't know. I think he's the MVP. All that being said, I think he's the MVP. Jokic, he already has enough. He doesn't need any more, honestly. But yeah, I think he's having a great season, and the Thunder obviously going to be probably the favorites to come out of the West right now. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what he can do in the playoffs.
Yeah, and you had mentioned him briefly there, but they've been playing without Chet Holmgren for I don't even know how long. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember when he got injured, but it was earlier. It was early in the season, and he missed all of last season too, his rookie year. So, they've been dealing with their second best player being out for, almost 2 whole seasons, and he's still top of the West. So, I think it's definitely SJ. I don't think there's any contest at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting MVP race we got. I just feel like the new 65 game rule it really throws a lot of things off. I guess that's really the takeaway of this.
I'm supportive of that rule. I think you should play the majority of the season to qualify for being the best player in the league. If you're out there playing 30 games, you don't deserve the MVP. Even if you're averaging 50, like do it for longer. Like, come on.
True. No, yeah, I think you're totally right. I think you're totally right, but it's going to change a lot of conversations moving forward. But all right, so our last one, I thought this was honestly my favorite of the three. So we were talking about players that we thought were going to break out this season. Justin, you picked, well, I'll let the clip roll, but just a fun little conversation we had.
But I also think that Brandon Miller of the Charlotte Hornets is gonna take that team to close to the play-in, if not maybe that 10th or ninth seed in the play-in. Because they got some talent. They got some young talent, but you never know. You never know. I think Brandon Miller will be the best player on that team in the next coming years. I think he'll be better than LaMelo Ball. I
Wow.
think he's just got that dog in him. I think he's really got the work ethic, and he's not here to mess around. A lot of people see on social media that guy LaMelo Ball, he's goofing off, making his own clothing brand, doing this, doing that. He's a gifted player, but I don't think he's got the work ethic that Brandon Miller does. So I think Brandon Miller and Jaden Ivey are going to have two very nice seasons.
All right. So I just want you to explain yourself, Justin, because I don't know if you guys remember, but a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about some All-Star snubs, Justin said that LaMelo Ball was the biggest All-Star snub he's ever seen. And so now I just want to get your explanation as to why you thought Brandon Miller was going to be better than him. And also why, when I said that LaMelo Ball won't be a number one option, you guys both gave me criticism for that. But here you are saying Brandon Miller's the better player.
All right, all right, all right. So, sometimes you gotta make content. You gotta say some stuff that you even might not necessarily agree with. But I really do think Brandon Miller's got that dog in him. I really do think he has a better work ethic than LaMelo. But LaMelo, he doesn't care when he's out there. He'll launch a 1 foot, 30-footer from, like fading out of bounds. He literally hit the green FN shot, like literally the exact shot from the meme. So, I don't know. LaMelo Ball, great player. One of my favorite players. But when it comes to Brandon Miller, um, I don't even know when I was writing my notes earlier this week, Monday or Tuesday. Today's Thursday, by the way. I didn't even know. Like, I just was not. I never found out that Brandon Miller went down with a season-ending injury on his right wrist on January 23rd. He only played 27 games this year. And I also, in that clip, mentioned Jaden Ivey, who's also out for the year. So I don't know. I guess I'm just bad voodoo or something. But Brandon Miller in the games he was playing averaged 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. Second year. So his shooting attempts are way up from last year. Like he's taking almost double the amount of shots he took last year. So that's good to see. The percentages really haven't, matched that, output. He's kind of actually gone down with his shooting percentages a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. If he was healthy, it would have been a good pick. If he stayed healthy, it would have been a great pick. But yeah, you know what? Kind of made myself look like a clown for talking down on LaMelo, and then I'm like, oh, he's biggest all-star snub ever. So, stuff happens. You make a bad take every once in a while. You two clowns make plenty of bad takes, so I'm not worried about it.
You're right. I've had my fair share of really bad takes over the years. I don't know. I didn't hate that take. I mean, Brandon Miller's been great when he was playing earlier this year. I mean, great scorer. Obviously still really young. You're probably right. He might have a better work. I don't know, their lifestyles or whatever, but probably has a better work ethic than LaMelo. LaMelo's too busy doing all this other stuff. Yeah, I think you just went a little bit too far when you said What'd you say? You said he was going to be way better than Melo.
I
in the
said
long
he
run?
would. I mean, I don't know. I was only half listening to the clip because I was like embarrassed that I really said that. But um, I mean, if this team is ever going to be successful, like a playoff, getting into the playoffs consistently, and they keep LaMelo and Brandon Miller, I think Brandon he's a better two-way player. Um, and I mean, I still stand by that. I think he's got a better work ethic than LaMelo. So I think when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, Brandon Miller is going to be the guy who's going to get it done.
I think he's going to be good. You shouldn't feel embarrassed about that pick because I'm pretty sure I chose Andrew Nemhard for a breakout player, and that guy basically has just been doing the same stuff.
That's exactly who you picked.
Yeah. So
It's funny.
so you actually made a much better pick than I did.
No, to be honest, I only picked this because I wanted to use it as a gotcha moment for Justin with the All-Star conversation. I heard it and I was like, I have to use this. I have to use this. But no, I think I think you're right. Like I think Brandon Miller was on his way to having a breakout season. It's just he's dealt with injuries. And like you said, the Jaden Ivey thing also got hurt. But two players who were having really good seasons, So I just thought it was funny, the little mellow part of it. But yeah. I don't know if you guys had anything else. I felt like yeah. Just
I want to give go ahead.
Speaking of the balls, shout out LeVar Ball. The only reason I say shout out LeVar is because he just got his foot amputated for whatever health reason he had going on. And in the picture that I've been seeing all over social media, guy's in a wheelchair with, a stub leg, and he's got the biggest smile on his face. Just guy's always in good spirits. Everybody's got their different opinion about that guy LeVar Ball, but guy put on for his kids, bro. He got two of them in the league. One of them's a top 100 charting rapper. So, what up, LeVar? Guy's a dog.
Anything else? I guess Toby. I mean, I feel like something big happened in your neck of the woods, right? Within the past week or so.
I mean,
somebody they won a football thing.
I think the Eagles won a football thing. I think it was a big football thing. And,
it was a big football thing. What happened?
We haven't made an episode since then.
I don't think so. I don't know. All I know is Jalen Hurts is the greatest quarterback in the league. Saquon Barkley, the best running back. They got the best defense in the league, and we're running it back next year. So shout out to the Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds. And shout out to the Nets too. They're playing the Cavs right now. They're pretty competitive. So again, I'm really hoping for that playoff or that play-in push. I think we could do it.
Speaking of the Nets, though, how does it feel getting rid of the second worst player in the league for the worst player in the league? You got rid of Ben Simmons, and then you signed Killian Hayes. How's it feel?
I don't know. I'm indifferent at this point. I'm just happy that we got rid of Ben. I'm tired of seeing him in his clown outfit sitting on the bench every other game, getting paid like $30 million a game. I'm just relieved. I don't care who we sign after that. I'm just done.
Wow. Yeah. Well, we'll see. But okay. Yeah. Good stuff. Nice little episode, I thought. Funny episode. But until next time, I guess we'll be seeing you.
Yeah, peace out.